Is your mind constantly racing, turning these tiny little worries into huge catastrophes? If that sounds familiar, you are so in the right place. In this explainer, we're diving into Nick Trenton's book, Stop Overthinking, to give you some real, practical tools to quiet that mental chatter, find some relief from anxiety, and finally get a sense of peace. So here's our game plan for getting a quieter mind. First up, we're going to really look at that overthinking spiral. Then we'll figure out why our brains get so stuck in these loops. After that, and this is the good stuff, we'll jump into 5 powerful techniques for instant calm, learn how to build habits for long-term clarity, and we'll end with one single powerful step you can take today. You know, to solve a problem, you first have to be able to name it. So let's start right there. What does this spiral of overthinking actually feel like when it really takes hold? So Trenton introduces us to this guy, James. He finds a weird-looking mole, and his mind it just takes off. What starts as a simple little health concern spirals into this absolute storm of self-doubt, anxiety, and total indecision. It's such a perfect example of how our minds can turn a tiny spark into a raging inferno, and how quickly we can get lost in all that smoke. Okay, this is a really, really crucial distinction. Overthinking is not problem solving. Not at all. Problem solving actually moves you forward. Overthinking, well, that's when your mind just gets stuck in a loop that feels terrible and, most importantly, doesn't lead to any kind of solution. And this isn't just a feeling, you know? It has real, tangible consequences. All that mental clutter spills out into every single part of our lives, from physical exhaustion and a racing heart to strange relationships and even poor performance at work. It really affects everything. Okay, so we know what overthinking is, but the big question is why? Why do our brains, which are literally designed to keep us safe, get trapped in these really destructive cycles in the first place? A key idea here is to think of anxiety as the engine driving the train of overthinking. All those constant what-ifs and worst-case scenarios, that's the smoke coming out of the chimney. That's the how. But that deep underlying feeling of anxiety, that's the fuel. That's the why. Now, it's so easy to feel like, I was just born this way. And you know what? There's a little grain of truth to that. Research shows that anxiety has about a 26% heritability rate, so yeah, genetics do play a small role. But that is not the whole story, not even close. The other 74%, that comes from our environment, our experiences, and our habits. And this is the really empowering part. This is the area where we have so much power to make different choices and take back control. Our brains also get stuck for a few other reasons. For one, overthinking can create this illusion of control, right? It feels like we're doing something about a problem, even if we're just spinning our wheels. It also loves to latch onto our deepest insecurities and can be fueled by everyday habits like not getting enough sleep or spending way too much time scrolling. Okay, we totally get the what and the why. Now for the most important part, the how. Let's get into the practical stuff. Here are 5 powerful techniques you can use the very moment you feel your mind starting to spiral. First up is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. This is an incredibly simple and effective way to pull yourself out of your head and get back into the present moment. You just pause and name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can physically feel, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It works because it forces your focus to shift, basically short-circuiting the worry loop by engaging all of your senses. Next up is reframing. Our minds love to fall into these unhelpful thinking patterns, these things called cognitive distortions. One of the most common is all or nothing thinking, where we see everything in black and white. So instead of thinking, I'm a complete failure, the trick is to catch that thought and consciously reframe it to something more balanced, something more realistic, like this one event doesn't define who I am. The 4A's framework is a really powerful way to get back a sense of control when you feel overwhelmed. So instead of just letting stress happen to you, it gives you 4 clear, proactive choices. You can either avoid it, alter it, accept it, or adapt to it. So what does that actually look like in real life? Well, you can avoid the stress of a crowded store by just shopping at a different time. You can alter a situation by clearly communicating what you need. You can accept a reality you can't change, like a rainy day. Or you can adapt by changing your own expectations to be a little more flexible. You know, feeling overwhelmed is a massive trigger for overthinking. Eisenhower's method is this classic, amazing tool for cutting through all that noise. It forces you to categorize your to-do list based on what's truly important and what's truly urgent.
Just the simple act of sorting can bring instant clarity, helping you focus on what really matters and giving you permission to just delete the rest.
This last technique is all about creating some distance from the noise in your head. And remember this, you are not your thoughts. A really powerful way to practice this is to give that anxious inner voice a name. So when that critical voice pops up, you can just calmly say, "Oh, that's just Fred again." By giving it a name, you separate yourself from the thought and you rob it of its power. It's brilliant.
So those in-the-moment tools are absolute lifesavers. But the real goal here is to stop the fire before it even starts. This next section is all about building the daily habits that create a life that's just naturally less prone to overthinking, building a foundation of real, long-term mental clarity.
And this quote right here, it just captures the spirit of this perfectly. We can't eliminate stress entirely. That's just part of being alive. But we absolutely can change our response to it. Overthinking is a habit, and just like any other habit, it can be replaced with a better one. So what do these habits actually look like? Well, it's about being proactive. It's about scheduling rest and fun just like you would a work meeting. Maybe keep a simple journal to spot your stress triggers. Practice gratitude to literally train your brain to see the good. Set clear, achievable goals to reduce that awful feeling of uncertainty. And please don't forget to make time to laugh and play. We have covered a lot: the problem, the causes, and a whole toolkit of solutions. Now, let's just bring it all together and focus on the most important part of all, taking that very first step.
The journey out of overthinking, it doesn't happen all at once. It just begins with a single conscious choice. So, take a quiet moment and ask yourself this question. What is the one repetitive, looping thought that you are ready to release, right here, right now? Just acknowledging it is the first step to letting it go.